Hi everyone, looks like round 2 has been completed. So let's look at the results for our Jan19 leaderboard. Okay, so for the current round points, we had JFM Motors 954 points and Dye Macro Auto 850 points. Just really great scores. Anything over, I would say over 350, which most teams in the class got over 350, are doing pretty well. There's a few teams here that scored below 200. They should watch these videos very closely. Okay, so let's look at the gross profit margin. Remember, your company started out in year 0 with a 40% gross profit margin. So any team that's above that, which all these teams here are above that 40% profit margin, that's good. But the teams that are at or below that 40%, you're not delivering to investors what they're expecting. So investors expect that earnings and gross margins increase every year. And that's not unreasonable in an industry where growth is greater than 20% for most vehicles, and the operation efficiencies will add to profitability. That's not an unexpectable reasoning of investors expect profit margins to grow. Now we have stock price from the top of 31 to the very bottom of 17. So a big divergence there. Let's go into total points. So these points are cumulative. So your grade is based off of total points. So some teams are more than halfway there to, after 2 rounds, they're more than halfway there to get the full points for the simulation. So we have plenty of teams over 1,000 points, which is great. So most teams actually, it looks like most teams are over 1,000 points. So you're ahead of schedule. You're going to get there early. Now the teams that are under 1,000, you need to pay a little bit more extra attention to the simulation, these videos, practice games to get your level of gameplay up. Okay, so operating profit margins go from 0.35 all the way down to 0.19. So operating profit margins, you improve those by making your operations more efficient. Specifically, what you can control is the advertising budget, making sure that your money spent is being spent the most effectively to generate the most sales and profits. Earnings per share, we have a top earnings per share of $7 and a bottom of $2.75 or $2.76. So you see there's a big divergence here of how those earnings are generated. Okay. And net profit margin, we have a top of 0.24 and have a bottom of 0.13. So every company is profitable, but profits aren't good enough in this world. Profits have to be continually increasing. And this percentile rank here shows you how well you did against the past, I think it's maybe past 2 years of students who participated in this simulation. So some teams are performing at very high levels. Okay, so let's go to, and of course, if you don't, all of these financial ratios are in the student manual that you could look up. And let's look at the industry charts for a second. So we see here that this is the net profits per team, and we see that one of the reasons that JFM Motors, that they turned around so much is they had a poor first year showing, but they really turned it around in the second year. So they really must have put effort into practice games, looking at the videos, reading the student manual. So we had a lot of teams that, a couple of teams here that the blue team really turned it around big time, and JFM Motors really turned it around. And also Dye Macro Auto really turned it around quite a bit. And then if we look, these 3 companies here too grew net profits a great deal. And it looks like every company increased in net profits except for one company that declined. Most all companies increased their net profits. So if you look at points per team, we see that some teams increased in points, some teams decreased in points. Because one thing is, remember, you're competing head-to-head to other students in the competition, as well as competing against your last year results. Just like in the real world, when strategic managers look at your company, they want to see that not only are you're making improvements against the industry averages, but you're also making improvements against last year's performance. Because both are important. Just think about your grade point average. Sure, you want to see that your grade point average is increasing semester after semester, but it's not going to mean much unless you compare it against the industry. So if your grade point average went from a 3 to a 3.5, you might think that's great, but if the industry average is a 4.0, you're not doing that well. So that's why you want to look at these two perspectives, your year-over-year improvement and your benchmarking against the industry. Okay, here's stock price in terms of just a graph on stock price and a graph on sales. And you can see how this team really shot up in sales here. Also, this team had a really big increase, and that's the JF Motors are really turning around from being bottom of sales to getting more towards the middle of the pack. Great improvement. Now, when you see a team like this, it just goes lateral. So this is a team that didn't fill in round 2, and your decisions from round 1 just get copied over into round 2 with no improvements, and your sales don't improve. So make sure you don't miss any of the rounds when they're due. And it's pretty simple. Every Wednesday, every Friday, you have a round due. And if we look at earnings per share here, we could see that, again, that JFM Motors really turned around their earnings per share, and that's what rocketed them up the first place in the charts. Okay. So that's my quick little review video of how the team competition did. I'm going to post a second video on some ideas and some help for completing round 3. Thank you for your time. Take care.